Hello, Jalen and Jake. We are in this day 2 of section notes for 1-3 for stats. And we are down here at design of experiments. So here we go. We talked yesterday about observational study versus experiment, and sometimes one is better than the other. Good design of an experiment. Like, let's say I am going to test a pain medication to see if it works, like Tylenol, and let's say the clinical trial is successful and it goes onto the market. It does not stop there. What they will a lot of times do is they will continue to run the same study again of my drug just to make sure that with a different sample it doesn't get different results, and they'll run it again and they'll run it again, and the second they get some adverse side effect reactions to my drug, guess what happens?
Pull it off the shelf.
They recall it. That's why recalls come about a lot of times, is because somebody is getting an adverse side effect or things like that. So what we want to do is, in an experiment, we want to be able to replicate the experiment. Even after something's gone on the market, we replicate it again to make sure that it is safe. Like, not in just that sample that we tried it in the first time. We want to replicate it again. We still exercise blinding, whether it's single blind or double blind, and then choose a random selection of people to survey or to sample to administer the drug to. But we still do that even after it's gone on the market, just to make sure they replicate it over and over and over again to make sure that it's safe. Okay? So what is the difference between blind and double blind? You guys had that for your homework assignment?
Yep.
You remember?
They
This is
both
single
don't-
blind versus double blind. So what's single blind?
The person receiving doesn't know what it is.
Person receiving. Receiver. R-E-C-I-E-V-E-R. Is that spelled right? No.
Yep.
E-I-V-E-R.
That's like a wide receiver.
I before E except after C. R-E-C-E-I-V-E-R.
That
Doesn't
don't look
know. Does not know. I don't know. I spelled it wrong. I was right before.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever. Spell it right then. Receiver doesn't know. The double blind study. Double blind means receiver
And passer outer.
and giver.
Assigner.
Receiver and giver does not know. Okay. When you write that for your homework assignment on number 2, make sure you use nice complete sentences. I'm paraphrasing right now, but use nice complete
say
sentences.
The person getting
Okay.
and the person receiving do not know.
Sure. as long
Don't
as
know
it's a
what.
complete sentence. Okay. All right. Receiver and giver does not know. All right. There you go. Now, yesterday we talked at the end. I think Haley was the one that said it. And she was talking about, like, in an experiment, let's say you're doing like an exercise program, right? Where, like, I'm having you guys run on the treadmill and you guys just eat and have the same, you guys all have the same diet, but you guys run on the treadmill and you guys don't, right? Would I necessarily have to blind you in that case?
Yes, while you're running.
So you fall down while you're running? No. You can't, like I blind you in a drug trial because you could mentally, like,
Wait. But you can
Think
still
about
do
that
that
stuff?
about like your physical body.
Yeah,
So
like-
you would just not tell the other people what the other group is doing.
Yeah.
right.
Because
You'd be like, they're doing
This
probably what you're doing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. We could
Even
blind
though
them
they're
that
on
way.
treadmills,
if you
and
have
they
one-
don't
if
know
you
that
tell
the other
them
group is not doing
this
it.
group
That's
do
true.
that,
Okay, so
and
we
this
could still
group's-
blind them. All right, but yeah. Okay,
So
I buy
they
that.
don't know if they're the experiment or not.
Right. Yeah.
'Cause
They don't know
you
that the
tell
other
one
group is
person,
exercising.
You're the healthy group, so then they start eating healthy, they start walking more.
Yeah, but we
instead of just
maintain that. We like tell them
Okay, but,
this
like,
is what you can
still,
and cannot
like,
do. You can't do any of these
Being
things.
like thinking, oh,
Okay, I
I'm
believe that.
supposed to be a fat lard, it makes you a fat lard. Just the mentality of
You
it.
think so?
Oh, 100%.
Uh-huh. So if I see
like a
myself in the
kid.
mirror every morning as like stick thin, maybe I will be, right? Like, yeah.
It has a,
I don't know.
it has a,
Anyway,
a
so-
impact.
Those are things that we have to consider. All right, let's go on down to the next page. This is the meat and potatoes of what we're doing today. You have to really pay attention to this stuff. Here we go. There are 5 ways of collecting a sample, and sometimes these are used together in one sampling method. Okay? So the very, very best way of collecting a sample is doing it randomly because it has the least bias. The least bias is doing a simple random sample where everyone gets a number. Assign number to everyone. Write this down. Chase, you assign a number to everyone and then choose randomly. Yep.
Page 2.
Assign a number to everyone and choose them randomly. That is a simple random sample. That has the potential to create the least amount of bias which is bad. We don't want that, right? Okay, the least amount of bias. That is the first sampling method that we talk about, okay? Questions about simple random sample. Okay, what's the bad thing about having a simple random sample?
It's hard to do.
It's probably hard to do. Like, I have to choose those people, then I have to go find them. Okay, I have to seek them out and find them, and what happens if I can't find them? If I can't find that person?
Find a new one.
What do I do? Do I find a new one? Do I assign a new one? Whatever, okay? All right, a systematic sample is a lot more convenient for me, and this is used like in assembly lines. So you can kind of see the cars right there. Let's say I am producing light bulbs on a conveyor belt, right? And I want to make sure that we don't have any glitches or any problems with because sometimes machinery goes down and it quits working, right? And I don't want a batch of light bulbs to go out or like to not work when they show up to the consumer. So what I'm going to do is, rather than testing the whole batch, I test like every 10th one coming across the conveyor belt, right? And that's not to say that like that's going to eliminate all of them that are bad, but if one of them goes bad, I'm probably going to test the ones around it to make sure it was just a fluke, or if it was like a bad batch. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is a systematic sample, a lot of times used on a conveyor belt or with lists of things, okay? So like we do a systematic sample of like your class. We could say, I'm gonna start with the first person and I'm gonna go every third person all the way down, and that's how I'm gonna collect my sample, right? We'll do that here in a second because I have a list of all you guys, okay? So systematic sample, the first thing you wanna do is choose your starting number. I'm gonna choose my start number. Okay? You have to randomly choose your starting number. Random. Okay? So I would run a random number generator to choose the person that I'm gonna start on, and then the person I'm gonna start on is number
3.
7. We're starting on the 7th person. Start. Okay? And then we go choose a random number. Chase chose 3. Every third person after that. How many do you want in your sample?
At least.
Well,
double.
we're gonna sample the people in here, so I need like a smaller
1,
sample.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're gonna get 2 people.
What? No, just wait. I'm
You
gonna
want
show you how we
half.
do that. Let's say we want 8 people out of here. Now, because there's only 13 of you. Let's go 6 people. Okay? And I want 6 people. Okay, so we're gonna do this for your class. Ready? I gotta take a picture of your class list here. Oh, that's not what I want. Cancel.
Hey, that's your
Okay. Save. Cancel. PDF. Cancel. Okay, we're starting at the 7th person, every third person, and we want 6 people. All right, here we go. Okay, you guys are second period stats. We're not going to include the Lawrence Nelson people because we don't care about them right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we're starting with which person?
7.
The 7th person. 1,
Libby.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Libby, you're the lucky number 1. Libby gets chosen first. And every third person after that.
Claire.
So 1, 2, 3. Claire is chosen. 1, 2, 3.
James.
James is chosen. Now what?
Go 1, 2, 3 from the top.
Now we
Full
go
turn.
we start back from the top. So 1, 2, 3. Carson is chosen. 1, 2, 3.
Kyle.
Kyle is chosen.
And Chase.
1, 2, 3. Connor is chosen. You see that? Now how many do we have? 6? That's our sample.
Haley.
You got it? As soon as they're chosen, they're thrown out.
Why do you go these twice? Or you just
You just
go
keep going through until you have the number that you want, right? So we said 6 on our sample. We've got 6 now, so we stop. So you lucky people, you get to be on our sample of whatever we're doing, right?
C.
That's how you would do what is this called? Systematic sample. There we go. We have a system going. It's every third person starting with the 7. Okay, got it? Questions about that one? Let's go back up. Here we go. That was my systematic sample. All right, the next one is a convenient sample. We've already talked about this one because convenience is a voluntary sample, right? And we've said voluntary samples are really nice because the people just come to me, right? They just flock to me, or I call them and it's very easy. I don't have to like twist their arm if they don't want to give me information. I just move on to the next person, right? It's a voluntary thing. That is convenient for me. Now, voluntary is not always the best way because we said you get the opinionated people, either strongly for or strongly against whatever you're talking about. Everybody in the middle is gonna say, I don't have time for that probably, right? Okay? Now, not only is voluntary sample a convenient sample, but also let's say we are wanting to, we want height of college students. Let's say I want heights of college students, okay? I don't want to go and actually measure and find a sample of random college students. Let's say we have 20 of them. I want 20 random college students and I'm going to take their height, but I don't want to have to go to all the work. So I'm going to go do what's convenient for me, and I'm going to go to the registrar or the athletic department or whatever, and I am going to get the physical forms, because all the basketball players have to have physical forms,
But
right?
why basketball players be tall?
You just wait. That's what we're going to talk about, okay? So I'm going to get heights from basketball physicals, because that's convenient, right? I don't actually have to do that, okay? I'm going to get the heights from the basketball players' physicals. Chase just figured it out. What's wrong with that?
Not everybody plays basketball.
Right? But who does play basketball for
Tall
college? Tall people. Bias.
Luke used to
They
play basketball.
are
College basketball.
taller on average.
You used to play college basketball?
Okay, so that is not going to give me a good indication of the height for the average college student, because those people are going to be higher, or are going to be taller, right? Their average height will be higher than what the average would have been if they were not, if we didn't choose all the basketball players. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
So we have to choose the correct sampling method for what we're trying to do, right?
Everyone in math.
What? Everyone in math?
Yeah.
But that might be biased too,
Why?
because you might say the math are the geeky people that weren't smart enough to, or weren't tall enough to play sports, so they're the short people. I don't know. Worked in my case, right? I'm a geeky math person
Yeah,
and I'm
that's why I
short,
said it.
right? I don't know. We just have to decide, is that gonna be a predetermined bias? I don't know. What?
You think that would be biased though? If
What?
I just took everyone out of math?
For height?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe. We'd have to consider it.
Took like
I
the
think
top
you're reaching
10
pretty
people
hard.
in math. Are they gonna be shorter than the bottom 10 people?
I think
What
you're
do you mean?
reaching too hard on that. I don't think that's any
I have
correlation.
no idea.
I don't know. We have to decide it, right?
Does height determine?
You'd have to do
math
multiple
capability?
colleges then.
Sure. Right.
Or classes.
Right? Or we could just randomly select 5 boys and 5 girls from the college in general and get it that way. So we could get an athlete, we could get, now, okay, it might be biased because we're not choosing athletes in that case. Unless we have an athlete that's going into the math field. But, you know, like the
So
choosing all athletes is gonna bring the average up, but choosing no athletes is gonna bring the average down. And we wanna make sure that they are included a little bit, right? So we have to somehow make it so that we have it, you know, they're counted, but they're not over counted in our average, right?
So what would be the best way to do it?
Just randomly pick them.
Best way to do it would be to get every single person.
Well, yeah, but that's not always.
And then that's not voluntary.
We're gonna talk about that here in a second. Like, why do we even go through this
I feel
route?
like a voluntary sample, like an example of a voluntary sample would be better. Like, if
Yeah, so in that case, a voluntary sample, height, you can't be biased on height for a voluntary sample, right? Like, I can't,
Well, what if only tall people want to do it?
well.
Or if you offer like a reward, like you're like, give me your height and I'll pay you like $10.
Sure, or come get a candy bar and I'll take your height, or, you know, whatever, right? Like, you're not bias might be, it might be better in that case to do a voluntary sample because you can't really change your height, right? Versus the opinionated people are more likely to participate if it's an opinion based, but height, they're just like, sure, I am whatever height I am, right? Or maybe that would be biased because somebody who's walking through that is really short and they're ashamed of how short they are, or they're ashamed of how
Walking.
tall they are, they might not want to participate. So we gotta be careful. There's bias all over the place. We just have to figure out which method would be the best to not have bias. Again, the best way is a simple random sample where whoever we choose, we force to participate, right?
But then that's not voluntary.
Thanks, my mom cut it.
Right? All right, so the next one. Are you ready for this? We're gonna do the next two together, like at the same time. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go Blue Hill. Go Lawrence Nelson in a bubble. Go Red Cloud. Go Silver Lake and Deschler is the ones that we choose.
You had to pick the worst.
I just chose the ones in our conference. They chose for
Bottom
me
of
this
the
morning.
bucket right there.
They chose the ones they chose
At
these
least
for me
Harvard
this
was
morning.
in there.
What?
Harvard.
Harvard?
Gilder.
Yeah.
Really,
Giltner. I just did conference.
Is Gilner with us?
Gilder's our
Yeah,
conference.
yeah.
Giltner is now?
Yeah.
Really?
Unobservant.
When did that happen?
This year.
This year? So how many do we have in our conference now?
One more than we used
Nine.
to.
10?
10.
10? I think there was 9 before.
Math teacher.
Did anybody leave though? Okay. Alright, so here's the
They
deal.
are so far away. How far is Deschler? Or I mean,
Giltner? I don't know.
Gilner's not that far away. Gilner's
It's like over by like Donovan.
so 45 minutes, and Deschler is an hour away.
Yeah.
Imagine those two. They're in direct opposite.
Yeah.
Imagine those two trying to. Oh,
Well, they haven't
go
played.
to
They play
Deschler.
each other no matter what.
I mean,
Like during the season,
yeah.
not just for conference. Anyway, okay. All right, stratified versus cluster. I'm going to show you how this works with the same groupings. Here we
You have
go.
to to
Their example for
Deschler.
stratified. Stratified, we have a naturally occurring groups. Okay, they said that men and women are naturally occurring groups, right? We don't actually have to like number anybody and send them to two different groups. We just send them off to boys over here, girls over here, then we make our sample from that, okay? So we have naturally occurring groups. Another naturally occurring group would be like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, right? You guys are already grouped into freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I don't have to spend the time grouping you, right? They're already occurring groups, okay? Then what I do for a stratified sample is I choose the same number of participants in each group. So men versus women, I choose 3 of each, right? Okay, this might be a good example for height because men and women have different heights typically. Men are usually taller, women are usually shorter. So if I'm grouping them all together, I would probably want equal representation of men and women, right? For height, okay? So we choose same number from each group. Okay, so let's say I'm going to all these schools and I'm going to choose 10 students to survey from each school. Whatever it is we're talking about, we're doing 10 people from each school. Okay? Versus a cluster sample. They're in clusters now. These are still naturally occurring groups. Did I spell occurring right? Is it 2 C's? No. For some reason, I cannot spell this. Like the last 2 weeks, I have not been able to spell. A naturally occurring group,
Okay.
and we choose a few whole groups. Okay, so rather than choosing 10 from each, I'm going to knock off Silver Lake and I'm going to knock off Deschler because we don't care about them, and we're going to choose everybody from Blue Hill, everybody from Red Cloud, everybody from Lawrence Nelson to participate. Okay, does that make sense? So that might be more convenient for me because then I don't have to travel to those 3 places, but here's the problem. Let's say, I'm trying to give an example of where this would be biased, so bear with me here. Let's say that I am asking elementary students what their favorite color is. If I get rid of Silver Lake and Deschler, I am probably likely to get fewer people that say purple and fewer people that say maroon. True? Because when you're in elementary school, whatever your school color is, you wear more of, and that's more likely to maybe be your favorite color. Maybe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that might be biased in that
Really
case.
blue?
So in that case, if we're doing favorite color, we would probably want to do 10 from each, and then, you know, get equal representation of all the school colors. Does that make sense?
We'll fight to the death.
Okay.
Color. So us 4
Oh.
versus
Well, does that count?
no, it's black. Sorry,
He,
man.
he has blue.
Sure.
You just have to fight both.
Okay. All right, so does that make sense for stratified versus cluster sampling? Yeah?
Good thing we're-
Stratified versus cluster
Does that mean I'm
is 10, a couple from each versus cutting off 2 clusters and taking the whole ones of the other ones. Got it? That's the difference between the 2. Okay, now, most of the time, if you have a really, really, really big population, you're gonna be doing a combination of these, okay? So we're gonna look at this example just briefly. I'm not gonna dive all the way into it because there's a lot of moving parts in here. But this is called multi-stage sampling, where you're doing some combination of the above methods. So you're doing a lot of different things, okay? So let's talk about what they're doing here. This one is, we're doing the U.S. government unemployment statistics, okay? We're trying to figure out what the unemployment rate is, that type of thing. So we have to do that. We're wanting it to be out of everybody in the United States, but they're not asking everybody in the United States. They're making a sample from there. So we're starting with all U.S. and I'm gonna say greater than 16 years because they specify that down below. So everybody older than 16 years old, we wanna figure out what percent is unemployed, what percent is employed, what percent is self-employed, that type of thing. That's what we're trying to figure out, okay? So from there, what they've done is, it says the entire United States is partitioned into 2007 different regions, okay? So from there, we go to 2007 regions. Now, that sounds kind of like a naturally occurring group, right? So that process is probably going to be either stratified or cluster sampling, right? I'm gonna go with stratified because from there it's gonna say we're gonna take a certain number from each group, right? So we do a stratified sampling method to get them down into the 2007 regions, right? All right, the 2007 primary sampling units are then grouped into 824 different strata, okay? So we do another stratified, we have it grouped, and then we're doing another stratified to get it down to 824, right? Before we continue on, let's talk about this one right quick. If we're doing heights and stuff and we choose 10 from each, I could then do another stratified and say 5 boys, 5 girls, right? Does that make sense? So that's a stratified within a stratified. Got it? 5 boys, 5 girls from Blue Hill, and then 10 from each Blue Hill, Lawrence, Nelson, Silver Lake, blah, blah, blah. So we can stack methods on top of each other. So stratified, stratified. Now we're down to 824 different strata. One of the primary sampling method units is selected so that the probability of selection is proportionate to the size of the population. Okay, so the way that I interpret this as there's 824 different kind of like counties. Okay, we'll think of them as that way. 824 different counties are chosen. Now, within our just Webster County, right? Within Webster County, we have what, 3 towns?
3, Silver Lake.
Silver
Red
Lake.
House,
Is Roseland
West
in
School.
Webster County?
We have
Like it would be like a kind of a town. We'll just go with like schools. So Silver Lake, Red Cloud, Blue Hill, right? We have 3 towns or 3 schools, kind of. So within that, we choose one. We choose one from each of the 824. So out of the 824 different counties, we choose one town or one school or whatever. Okay, choose one of each. Okay, that is like which method? So we have within Webster County, we have three towns, and we're taking all of them from Blue Hill, let's say. That's cluster, right? That's a cluster sample, right? We're taking all of them from this town, okay? Now within that town, within each containing about 300 households. So now we're selecting 300 households from each one of those towns. 300 households. Okay, what would that probably maybe be? You think? How would we get it?
Sample.
What?
The sample.
That's a
Stratified.
cluster again.
Systematic.
Would it be a random sample?
I'm just gonna say random. Like we randomly choose those from there. We randomly choose the 300 out of that town, right? Then out of the 300 comes 4 addresses are randomly selected. So we choose from the 300, we choose 4 addresses to then call. Okay, and how is that chosen?
Random.
Probably a random assignment again. Okay, so at the very base level, we do some more random things. Up above to break them down, we do stratified or clustered or things like that, right? Okay, and then that leads to, out of the 4 that we choose from each city, out of 824 different countries or counties or whatever, and those many regions, it gives me like 60,000 or whatever. I don't know if the math adds up, but anyway.
4 times.
I think they took the 300 times 8, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, they get up to the point where they get 60,000 different selected households, and then they survey those people, okay? So that gives me kind of a sample of everybody across the United States, and this is like a bunch of different, just in gathering one sample, we did a bunch of different methods all at once, right? Okay, so that's multi-stage, a combination of all of them. Got it? Okay, that is as far as we're gonna go today, but what I want you to do is in the last little bit of time, I don't know how much time we have left, not very much. Maps testing schedule. We are on Thursday, second period, 10:42. So we're about done. Do 10 through 20.
41.
10 through 20. That should be like the rest of the first page
We
of
have
homework.
1 minute, Coach.
Okay? Cool. The rest of the first page.
45 seconds.
So you're having to assign whether it is random, systematic, convenience, stratified, or cluster. Those are your options. Okay?
So like number
Got it?
12, will that be stratified?
Groups of males and females, then randomly selecting 5 students from each of the groups.
So stratified?
I would say. We're not taking all of the males and all of the females. That would be clustered. We're choosing a couple from each. Okay?
Then like
Do
number-
10 through 20.
Number 10
Go.
that would be
What?
Do I need to know this?
convenience. Number 10.
Yeah. Are we after that? Okay. It's just reiterating blind and double blind. Okay. All right, you can shut this off, Kaylin. I'm gonna keep this up for Jake. I'm gonna, but if I stop it, then Jake won't be able to write this down, or I'll have to get it back up there.
Oh, gotcha.
Right?
I'm good.
Okay.